It's the type of thing that pisses people off. Like, there's a lot of stuff in politics that feels, especially if you're not in it, that feels a little too complex for you to really understand and assess. You're like, that sounds like a scandal, but I don't know. Is this business as usual? Whatever. Nothing pisses people off more than wealthy and powerful people digging in their pocket and giving it to their friends in a way that has nothing to do with the best interest of American people. In this case, is to do
Yeah.
with kind of the worst interest of American people. It is a although, the whole, like, we're not gonna let people forget about this thing. I landed in Brooklyn last night at JFK, and I was like, "Fucking Nicolas Maduro's here." Like, I've almost forgotten that we kidnapped the president of Venezuela, and he's just in a jail in Brooklyn on a very odd drug charge that, like, I kidnapped we have taken out essentially 2 heads of state. One is in a jail in Brooklyn, and one we bombed in a kind of unprompted war in Iran. Uh, the amount of shit that these guys do that just kind of fades into the background because of the next outrageous thing they're doing. Like, the "I'm gonna kill a civilization tonight." What was it? "A civilization will die tonight?" If we never talked about
That was
another
less
thing.
than a month ago.
We never talk about another thing. We have a guy in the White House that every once in a while threatens to kill an entire civilization for no particular reason, as far as we can tell. Uh, that should be enough. I mean, there's something intuitive that they figured out here about just like one dramatic scandal you can get fucked over on 1,000 in a row somehow allows you to keep swimming forward.
Yeah. Well, and I will say that unfortunately that list seems like it's going to grow. People didn't see the headlines this morning.
Yeah.
The administration appears to be gearing up to go into Cuba or trying to undertake some action in Cuba. They're going to charge uh, folks in the regime apparently with crimes. The CIA director was just down there. They're running out of oil because of a US blockade. And so literally people are dying in hospitals and on the streets. And I don't care what you think about the Cuban regime. My personal view is it's a total, complete, failed socialist experiment as they can't take care of their own people. Doesn't mean they should die. But this American blockade is resulting in people dying. And it sounds like the Trump administration is preparing for a third country that they want to invade. Yet another thing to spend your taxpayer dollars on. But Xander, I don't want to lose sight of this slush fund because a lot of people
Yeah.
are asking in the chat, what can be done? How can we stop it? Well, guess what? There are ways to stop this, folks. I would be shocked if some of our allies in this space, who we have funded to bring lawsuits against the Trump administration's corruption, don't immediately bring lawsuits the second that this fund is announced. I'm sure that there's a legal angle here to stop it or tie it up in the courts. That's piece number one. Piece number two is this is yet another reason, if you needed one, that we need to put the Democrats back in charge in Congress because Congress can put a stop to this because Congress is the one that created what's called the Judgment Fund, and that is the Justice Department and the Treasury have a fund, as they should be able to, if judgments are reached against the United States to pay out. So if you slip and fall at the Department of Agriculture and you sue because they poured Crisco on the floors to hurt you and you win in court, the government's got to be able to pay you
Mhm.
for that. But this judgment fund, Trump has figured out, oh, I can turn that into a slush fund for my buddies and to pay them. That is not the intended purpose of this. And Congress could right now, this very moment, they could go pass a less than one-page law to say what Donald Trump is doing is illegal. Now, of course, these spineless MAGA contortionists in the House are not going to do that. But if we elect the right House and Senate, we can make that happen. So, yeah, the courts could probably do something about this. The Congress can probably do something about this. But it starts with us being pissed off enough to make sure that they do.
Make sure that happens. Totally. Wow. It's Miles, when you were in Washington,
Yeah.
working within administrations, et cetera, did it feel possible that even someone could pull this off if they wanted to? Like, did the circumstances that even allow him to do this in the first place, did that feel possible? What is allowed Trump, you think, to specifically be able to bend this system in a way that probably felt unfathomable to you
Yeah.
before?
I mean, what's allowed is people willing to go along with it. That's what's
Yeah.
changed. I could not have imagined something like this happening in the first administration. A lot of terrible
Yeah.
things happened, but the people who would have to authorize this would know that they are going to be in the crosshairs. But this is what's extra corrupt about it is the people in Trump's Justice Department who are approving these things are the exact same people who could benefit from them.
Right.
Right? Is
Right.
people who are engaging in corrupt acts and can be investigated. Donald Trump wants to give those types of people money and compensation. So let me give you an example is take someone like who's someone that's in this administration from last go around and Peter Navarro. Peter
Mhm.
Navarro is a top Trump advisor. Peter Navarro went to prison because he refused to comply with a subpoena about Donald Trump's efforts to seize the 2020 election. Presumably, Donald Trump can now give Peter Navarro, who's back in his White House,
Mhm.
millions of dollars to say, hey, Peter, I'm sorry
There's an
that the
unfair
government
judgment.
investigated you for committing a crime. And do you really think that's not going to lead Peter to commit more crimes for the president? The president's literally giving him, this is a hypothetical, millions of dollars and saying, thanks for sticking by me, buddy. That's what's so scary about this. These are literal payoffs. This is mob stuff. This is straight up mob stuff. And
No, yeah, we're
I,
living in Capone, Chicago. This is like he's added basically the ability to bribe on top of the ability to exonerate. Like
yes,
he could do a negative freedom thing before. It's like I can stop you from being captured, but he couldn't so clearly and easily say you will also get richer if you do things for me and at my behest. And now he has both tools in his toolkit.
it's like a reverse pardon. Well, not a reverse pardon. It's like a super pardon. The
It's a super
president can
pardon.
pardon people. Now he's created the super pardon, which is not only can I pardon you, I can make you fucking rich at the same time by taking taxpayer dollars and giving it to you. That is mind boggling. The founders never imagined anything like this. In fact, they imagined that this type of thing would be the destruction of the republic. I wrote about it this morning. Is Madison in the Federalist Papers literally said the most important power to put in Congress's hands was the power of the purse. Because if the
Mhm.
executive could decide on their own how the money is spent, that would be tyranny. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say if Trump gets away with building billion-dollar slush funds to give away the money to whoever he wants, however he wants, it is tyranny. It's not something less. It's not crappy. It's not objectionable. It's not kind of illegal. It is tyrannical
That's
by
literally by
definition.
definition. Yeah. This is honestly that's been my one, as I've kind of dove into the firearms world. That's my
Yep.
one gun reform actually is just a 101 on tyranny. Like if the Second Amendment is there to be the safeguard, citizen safeguard against against a tyrannical government, seems to me on top of like the mental health checks and all these things that are being floated, the one thing that's not being talked about in firearm reform or gun reform is just having this group of people understand what tyranny is and being able to identify it so clearly. It's incredible to me when I'm at the gun club. I'm like, what do you guys think about this thing that just happened? That's like the armed the armed federal forces that's invaded an American city and killed two Americans. And it's certainly not a group that can clearly identify it right away as something that's tyrannical, even though it's maybe the most, when I was asking them when Minneapolis was being occupied
Yeah.
about as straightforward as that definition can be. So
It
that's
is. It
that's
is.
my one
I mean,
surprising gun
this is
reform.
this is tyranny now, man. It's mind blowing. I'm not
It
going to
is.
stop talking about this one. This is such an example. It is bigger than the ballroom. This is bigger than the Qatari jet he took. This is bigger than Liberty Financial. All of those things. This is the most direct seizure of taxpayer dollars for corrupt purposes in American history. If you want to look at big heists that have happened before, I think one of the biggest heists of cash ever in US history was like in the early 90s. Someone like held up a Brinks truck in LA and they like took $20 million. If you want to say assets, I think there was a heist at one of the big museums It was like $300 million of art was taken. Okay,
Someone did a
this
nice heist
eclipses this.
at the Louvre this year.
That's right.
Someone
Yeah,
they
but
had
that's
like a
at the
ladder
Louvre, not
going
in
up
the
to the
United States, right? This
yeah.
is, I think, unless someone can prove me wrong, this would be the biggest heist in American history, not just in the presidency, in American history.
Yeah.
We're not going to shut up about it, guys. We're not going to shut up about it, and I'm pretty sure that defiance.org is going to find something to do about this. I'm going to actually today, Xander, I'm going to message some of our allies who might be the ones undertaking lawsuits on this, and I'm going to see if we can help fund
See what we can do. That's
those
great.
lawsuits. And but at a bare minimum, we're going to fund the transparency efforts to make sure that we peel back where this goes. And I want to send that warning signal too. The people who think they're going to take money from this, the criminals who've been convicted for storming the Capitol, helping Donald Trump steal elections. Ooh, baby, I want them to know this money does not come for free. If he's going to cut checks for you, we're going to help reveal it. We're going to make sure that people know. We're going to make sure that they don't forget. We're going to make sure taxpayers understand that you've taken their money to buy yourself a Corvette to treat yourself for your crimes. We're not going to let this shit slide, baby. So that's my promise to this group is we're on this one. And we're just not going to let this happen. We cannot accept this level of corruption or it is tyranny. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox there, Xander, but I was pissed off
No,
this morning when I saw
I
that
want us
news.
to have that position more often. I remember when we had Ariane Bettencourt on the program, who was talking about her dad out getting Alcatraz. We told her, your dad's gonna get out. We're gonna stop at nothing to get your dad out of that fucking prison. And we got a text yesterday. Her dad's out. Alligator Alcatraz is on its way to being shut down. Like, we can fucking do this. We're getting huge wins across the board when this group's focus is on a problem. We just talked to FAFO. All the prosecutors across the nation are getting prepared to charge ICE agents with voter intimidation if they partake in it. We can do this, gang. We have enough. I mean, let's build more. Let's get more folks in. Let's grow this thing. But we are at a kind of minimum level of energy and membership that we can put pressure on important projects and win and support them and win. And we're going to do that over and over and over again. I mean, when it comes to grift miles, you're just talking about the biggest grifts. There's also these things that are even bigger that are just a little bit less straightforward. Like Trump getting this $1.7 billion slush fund, huge grift. The oil companies, his buddies at the oil companies being prepared to make $20 billion more this quarter because he's created an oil crisis. And, they've decided because antitrust laws have failed and because we don't have true competition, that they're just going to pump up the gas prices on all of us, and we're going to pay for the increased prices. There's just money being made hand on our fists in these private sector, handshake deals that, Miles, to your earlier point, are reminiscent of just how Russia operates more broadly, that are taking place that are huge numbers. There's the settlement fund for the illegal tariffs is $160 billion. $160 billion. Who's paying that? That's from us to corporations to pay them for fees they didn't even eat because they passed it on to us the first time. They're making money coming and going with us and robbing us, on every end. So on top of the very direct scandal that is this slush fund, we are being screwed by being in essentially living in a kleptocracy that Trump has rapidly transformed our federal government into.
I'm going to message our buddy Mark Elias right now.
Get him.
See
Get
if
him on
we
the
can.
case. Come on, Mark.
I'm going to see if, I'm sure he's already tracking on this. I'm just going to say, can we support you guys to sue these assholes? Why don't I have Mark pop it up? Sorry to do this live, guys, but I'm this mad about it. We're not
This is the call.
going to tolerate this. We can't just sit on our hands when these things happen.
Miles, this is literally how we work too, okay? Like, it's like Miles reads the news before me because he's on the East Coast, and then he talks at 9 a.m. He's like, this thing happened, what are we doing? We do like a working session, try to get creative, rope in a partner, and figure something out pretty quickly. I have a broader question. We talked about the union not surviving this type of behavior. At what point, I'm not suggesting this. This is like a philosophical question to you. I'm not suggesting at this point. At what point is there a reasonable understanding that you go, it looks like we don't want to co-govern? Like a democracy relies to some extent on going, we do want to, in general, be in some partnership where we figure out who governs. And we might debate on policy and we'll take losses where our policies aren't as popular, but we want to be in the same system. And as I've seen our system, not just during the Trump years, you can go back to gerrymandering, you can go back to Citizens United, you can go back to a bunch of different ways our system has been broken, not in a way has been changed in a way that is not with the goal of a more kind of perfect and realized democracy, but rather so their side
Mhm.
will win. That's not where you want to be as a democracy. You want the end results, the votes, to be a true expression of the will of the people. And when you lose, you can just honestly say, all right, Miles, you're a libertarian, I'm a socialist. My socialist idea was not as popular as Miles' libertarian idea across this thing. And that's okay. I can live with
Mhm.
that. I need to popularize my idea more within this country. That's not how this country, we just saw the gerrymandering fight at the end of the Voting Rights Act. That's not how this country is being operated. There's this war on if you can break the system in ways that then allow you to rule as a minority across certain issues and whatnot. At what point do you go, it looks like we don't want to co-govern? And it's all right. It's all right that we don't want to co-govern. And maybe we have a broader military alliance like Europe has in NATO. And there's like ways in which we are partners, but we don't have a central kind of governing authority because it doesn't look like that is a shared goal of ours, is to have a central governing authority. And I'm not saying the states all break. I'm not even proposing federalism or anything like that. I'm just wondering, like, is there ever a temperature check when a country is flailing like this? Where do you go? It doesn't have to be a civil war. We can agree to disagree and move
Xander's
with.
proposing a breakaway movement. Who's going to join the Republic of Xander?
I'm wondering when like I don't know enough about that. I know the history of like civil
Yeah.
wars. I know the history of world wars. I don't know enough about successful breakaway movements or when a democracy, what is like the minimum level
Yeah.
of agreement that you want to govern with each other that's necessary to maintain a democracy before it starts being captured in the ways we
Yeah.
see it now.
Well, I mean, look, this is kind of a continuation of the big picture discussion you and I had the other week. Like, if I had to project some of the pathways over the next 20 years, things are going to follow in terms of the intense polarization in our country. One pathway is it just keeps down this route, and we're talking low to mid level violence and civil conflict in the United States. Another pathway is a more productive one where we realize that this is untenable and that we cannot, every time power switches hands, feel like our lives are at stake and we decide to devolve more power to the states. Federalism. So blue states, red states get more power over their future, and people feel like they can choose where they want to live and have a more aligned government. Or,
And those
as you
states would
suggest, Andrew,
inevitably form partnerships and whatnot within that
for
breakaway
sure.
too. Yeah.
And there's another pathway, though, which is the breakaway pathway, which is it sounds really radical, but it's how this country was created, which is uh, states starting to look at soft secession and hard secession from the United States. I mean, while Donald Trump was railing about a stolen 2020 election, data showed that two-thirds of Southern Republicans wanted secession. Okay. I'm not saying that that was
Wow.
the answer. I'm just
That's a
saying,
crazy
yeah,
stat.
63%. This was 2023. 63% of Southern Republicans polled said they supported secession. Okay. So, again, I'm not saying that. I'm just projecting possible pathways. If
Yeah.
you think this sounds crazy and unrealistic, I don't think you understand how your fellow Americans feel. But the fact that we're even talking about it, Xander, shows that concept is becoming mainstream. But let me say this, and again, we're talking about multi-decade time horizons, but a peaceful secession is a lot better than a civil war.
Mhm.
And that's not the outcome I want for the United States, but we are going to be experiencing that kind of pressure where if we don't engage in political reform, if we don't do the hard work and roll up our sleeves and act like big boys and girls and agree to reforms to fix our democracy, including things like giving more power to the states, letting people live the way they want to, well, yeah, then it's probably either going to be things like secessionist movements becoming successful, violence
Mhm.
becoming the norm, or some combination thereof. I mean, I think the two states with the highest public reported favorability towards secession or California and Texas, at least a
Mhm.
couple years ago, last time I checked. So it's not just red states. You got Democrats, depending on who's in power, saying we want to get the hell out of here, and Republicans saying the same thing. That should be a blinking red light for leaders that we've got to figure out a new grand bargain in this country, or create the off ramps so that the polarization is not violent.
The Soviet Union, just as I was like thinking through any precedent, Soviet Union dissolution is probably the closest thing I can think of. That wasn't a war. It wasn't Yugoslavia, right? Where there's this big battle and then it gets broken into, 400 or 500 countries. Where it was this Gorbachev, you know, uh, breaks it up and there's like I don't know how many countries were born when USSR dissolved. It's like 20.
Couple
Like
dozen, right? Yeah,
yeah.
maybe close to a couple dozen. I mean, I don't want that for the United States. We shouldn't have that kind of crack up. If the United States cracked up like the Soviet Union, it would upend the entire world because there wouldn't be the stability of a single united armed nuclear power to ensure global stability.
You know what my
That wouldn't be
prediction
my
is, though, Miles, if we
recommendation.
did it? I think it's like a healthy couple that's getting in arguments, breaks up, and then realizes they need each other. I think we actually do. I think we go, "Oh, shit." I think some of the blue states are like, "I see what you're saying around immigration. We didn't really have a border before that. I see what some of the challenges you were facing are." I think some of the donor red states, or not donor red states, the recipient red states go, "Oh,
Yeah,
man, that revenue coming in from the federal government really was
pretty
voting." And it
nice.
turns out we vote away all these social programs. We don't believe there should be none anymore. We kind of got ahead of ourselves and you were holding us back. And we actually realized that there's some issues if we don't invest in social programs across the spectrum. And there's support for that. There's a version where we're kind of like, we're stopping each other from realizing the extreme views sometimes we have in certain places because we're booing each other and supporting one another. So I do have a prediction for us if that does happen, that maybe we see how the other side a little bit more clearly when we don't have the other side filling in the gaps for us.
True, ma'am. True. We're gonna need a big wake up call if this wasn't enough. Well, I know we're close to time here, Xander, and I think you got a 2:30 and I've got 2:30. But
Yeah,
one thing I'll just encourage folks to do is join Xander and I tonight because we have a
do a
we
great
have a
show.
pact. We have a pact Defiance Daily. And a lot to talk about. Also, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, we have a big week next week. Like um, we don't stop. This is the club for the courageous, and we're going to keep taking action against all this madness. And we have got an awesome announcement planned for next Wednesday. We've
Hmm.
got an awesome announcement planned for Monday. I think we have something else coming out Tuesday. I know it used to be like just Wednesdays or the weekly mission brief
I
and the
know.
action day, but we've had like
I do a
so
lot.
many trains running into each other of different things happening. We have like a bunch of action announcements next week. So I hope y'all are not sick of fighting back against Trump's abuses of power because we're not
We're
sick
not
of it.
hearing
If
that
we
from you guys. We're hearing you
if,
want
yeah,
more.
if
We're
we
trying
had
to.
just one paying member of the club, we would still be doing it. We'd still be going full throttle. We'd be able to do a lot less. So please
five
do
bucks a
share
month.
out. Yeah, $5 a month.
It's
But
usually five
please,
bucks a month.
yeah. Please encourage your friends, family, and others to come join defiance.org. We are relentless against these folks. And by the way, just as an update for folks, yes, I did text our friend Mark Elias while we were sitting here, and I said, Mark Miles Taylor, you going to sue the administration over this $1.7 billion slush fund thing? If so, we are happy to support it. So we'll see. We'll see what Mark says. We'll talk to our other friends, but we're not going to let them get away with this, guys. So anyway, yeah, Xander, I'll see you tonight. Who do we have on tonight?
But you always do this to me. You stump me
I
right
think
before
Latasha.
we get
I
off
think the
there.
great.
We
I
have a
think we've
couple
got the
people.
great Latasha Brown.
Latasha Brown on to talk about all roads lead to the south, and then we have actually a couple guests. So we have someone earlier than that too. It's going to be a great show. Trust me.
It'll
Oh,
be a
Barbara
great show.
Starr. Barbara Starr is on with us.
Former CNN Pentagon correspondent Barbara Straw. Awesome. All right, I'll see you guys at 5:30 Eastern. Rock and roll. No, 5 p.m. Eastern. Sorry.
At the end. Jeez.
Bye, everyone.
Later, again.